Welcome to the show. So what you been up to the last how many years has it been? 5 years since I saw you last, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're about to we celebrate our 6 year anniversary this year. So we've been spreading our wings in all things data science and data analytics. Great.
And how has your role changed since you started this adventure with Metis?
I think initially my role was very focused on getting our bootcamp business launched. That's still our probably the main thing that we're known about. We've been able to expand that to other cities and countries. But I would say now as we focus on our mission of educating people to find value in data, that means I get to kind of explore a lot of other areas. So things that we're doing with companies, things that we're doing with universities, online products. So I get to sort of explore, many different ways of sort of how to help people to find value in data.
Yeah, and everybody comes to me. I mean, you come up in conversation a lot, and it's controversial too because there is a need out there to learn more about the topic matter, and there is a choice of formats of how you learn stuff. How'd you come up with the idea of doing it the way that you're doing it now? It does seem to be fitting a niche, obviously, because you're enormously successful at it. But how did it get to where it's at today, where you're running this business like this?
Yeah, I wish I could say there was like some tremendous analysis behind this all. I'd say, as you know, Brian, Metis is a part of Kaplan. Kaplan has been around a long time. They've worked in a lot of mature industries, and I was with Kaplan, still am. We were thinking about how to expand beyond test prep, and career acceleration came up very quickly. And this is 6 years ago. So when some of the first boot camps were around, and we said, well, that's an interesting model. That's not terribly dissimilar to how test prep works, right? Test prep, you basically have a great instructor, a well thought out curriculum, a dedicated student, and a limited amount of time. And if you kind of munge those things together, hopefully somebody's future is changed for the better. Hopefully you get into a grad school that maybe you never would have otherwise. So with boot camps, I think it's a similar promise. Hopefully you open up a career or a career door that you never would have. So the logic for why Kaplan, and thus myself, would be interested was because it felt very similar to what we did. Then the question became how to do it. And so I spent almost a year on the road talking to lots of founders and companies and entrepreneurs, trying to learn everything I could about the space. And we made the decision to launch in December 2013. And ironically, we did it with a Ruby on Rails backend development bootcamp in Boston. I say it's ironic because we're not in Boston and we don't do Ruby on Rails backend development anymore.
Yeah.
But it was enough of a kind of good step forward that we said we're sort of onto something here. It took us about another 6 months before we expanded into data science and felt like that was really sort of our calling for Metis.
Yeah, and the industry's changed a little bit when you say, and even the last 6 years, I mean, is it a bubble and is it going to burst?
So is it a bubble and is it going to burst? I think that data science is not going away. Data science is not a bubble. And what I mean by that is the trend that companies are going to produce more and more data. So the volume of data, the types of data, the speed at which it's being created, the sources, all of that is going to increase. And therefore, the desire for companies to find value in the data is going to increase. As long as those two things, because I believe there's competitive value, as long as those two things hold true, there is going to be the need for people to help to make sense of it. Whether data scientist, as it's defined today, will change. I think I would think so, and I expect it to. For one, there's no agreement on what the term even means or what it's defined as, and so you have a proliferation of different job descriptions are out there. We look at our own graduates from Metis, and while data scientist is the most popular job description, there's probably some 30 plus that students have had afterwards. and so I think that means that sort of the kind of the day-to-day role is in flux, and there's lots of differing roles that overlap, and that's why there are ever new Venn diagrams that are showing up in terms of sort of what is actually what is data science. But the underlying work, the underlying need to apply in sort of a scientific way a process to solving problems and using data to do so, that I don't see changing.
What is your advice to people who come to you? Can you describe your interaction with either future students, current students, or recent graduates? Like, can you give me a couple? Do you have any stories of interactions you've had with these students and what they came looking to you for and what your answer was, or are you pretty hands off with that?
No, I can give some stories. So I think you're asking specifically about our retail business, so the bootcamp business, and the people who come to us are folks that are looking to accelerate their career or change career direction. They might be students, recent graduates of college or of a master's or PhD program. They might be analysts. They might be software developers. They could be researchers, product managers. It is a real gamut of roles, but for the most part, all of them have hit some point where they feel like what I'm doing is my enjoyment in what I'm doing today is gonna hit a ceiling, and I really like what sort of those people over there are doing. I really like playing with data and rolling up my sleeves and getting messy with it. And I want to be doing that kind of work, but I don't fully know how to do it. Most folks, I think, that come to us have taken the online courses. There's tremendous value in a lot of the online courses that are out there. There's great free resources. And I think what that does is it helps kind of confirm for folks, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I like to code. I like to solve problems analytically. I like to use math to solve problems. Truth be told, if that's not you, then pursuing data science or data analytics isn't for you either. We would never encourage somebody to enroll in Metis who hasn't first, sort of developed an interest in programming.
I mean, do you find that? I mean, do you find people that have you ever told someone, "Hey, this just isn't for you"? I mean, you should be doing something else.
We say that to people all the time. Yeah, I mean, in terms of sort of our acceptance rate, it's around about 30% or so. So there are a lot of people who come to Metis we think are not yet ready for this, and a primary reason is because they haven't yet sort of gotten comfortable enough with the software development and math skills that are going to be necessary to be successful in the job. So we'll often encourage people to get your feet wet, to learn, take Python classes, take some some of the requisite math classes. Make sure this is something you like doing. You can do a lot of that with Metis. We have classes that we can offer, and then when you're ready, and you're ready to sort of now kind of turbocharge that part of your career journey, let's resume the conversation.
Have you kept your pulse on the efforts to make data science more accessible, like the AutoML, the data robots, and all that? And what's your impression of what it's going to look like in the future for someone to conduct data science?
So, to be honest, I'm not super engaged on some of the different tools and platforms that you're describing to automate machine learning. What I mean by that is I'm not myself sort of too steep in them. But if I sort of step back, what I think is going to happen is that some of the more routinized or maybe mundane tasks that data scientists have to spend a lot of time with will be able to be done by these kind of platforms, right? Even if we just simply focus on the cleaning of data, that's an enormous time drain for data scientists. Most, I would say, don't terribly enjoy it, but it's the price of doing the work. There are emerging technologies and systems that are going to help to do that, and I think that means that over time, data scientists as we know it will spend less time doing that, and that means we're going to spend more time on sort of other parts of the process, doing more of the analysis, doing more of the communication, doing certainly more of the asking of questions and hypothesizing. So I think the tools definitely have a place. They will, whichever ones catch fire will catch fire, and it means that the aspects of the data science role will shift, but it won't obviate the need for data scientists. And that goes back to kind of my original point, which is so long as there is the need to sort of ask questions of what can I do with all this data? What sort of problem can I solve? How do I make sense of it? And then probably most important, like, how do I share these insights with other people who are not nearly as close to it as me? Then there is going to be a role for data scientists or whatever they're called in the future.
Interesting. And, I kind of wonder sometimes how data science may become a general skill set that everybody, or some people in certain fields at least, need to have. Or how much does it take away pursuing one's passion? Like a passion of yours, I heard today, was quite niche. You like Billard movies. I don't know if the audience knows what that is. You might have to define it. But it may go the same with science, science and discoveries. Like I like time series problems. Now, if everybody's doing that now as a generalized thing, it becomes maybe less interesting. Do you agree?
I agree to a point. So first of all, just to back up, since you referenced billiards movies, so billiards or pool is it's part of my alter ego. now that I'm telling you, I blog about billiards movies and billiards TV episodes and billiards films, and I've been doing so for the past 6 years as well. And that's my niche. It's something that I feel like I have a perspective on, and I like to write about it. I think with data science, it is about sort of taking one's technical skills and marrying them with problems that you like to solve. Hopefully, those are problems at your workplace, assuming you're doing this for employment. But you go back to sort of what are the traits that make a great data scientist? I think many of us would say it starts with curiosity. I got to be really curious about solving problems, and then I want to be passionate. You want to be able to apply that curiosity to something that you care about. Just to give one example, sure. Going back to your previous question about stories. I mean, we had a student. This was a couple of years ago, but I always reference this. And this was a student who one of his passions was basketball. And so when he was at Metis, he did his final project on creating sort of essentially sort of a motion tracker that used computer vision to track athletes' movement on the court. So you see this technology is very common in the NBA, but not common in college or certainly in high school sports. So he figured out a way to do it where you could upload YouTube videos and track the players and produce this sort of analytics. And he graduated, he went on to IBM, but after that, he actually got employed by the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's kind of a great story of how if you follow your passion and you marry it with data science, it can really take you into great places. It became a dream job for him.
You've seen the journey over even in 6 years of people coming into a program, the boot camps, and coming out and doing brilliant things. And you've probably seen some folks go through boot camps and do nothing with it as well. And along that journey, where do you see your personal journey with this? I mean, have you learned something from this experience of pushing data science forward? Are you still passionate about it? And, is this what you plan on doing in 5 years, or where are you at?
I mean, I'm pretty lucky because I've had the ability from within Kaplan to essentially create a company and to work with super talented people to grow this. It has really, and it's free, and it's been a chance just to democratize data science, to sort of provide an environment for people to interact with experts and really try to untangle what is data science, what does it mean, how is it used in the workplace, et cetera. And that is both super exciting and also tremendous learning. I mean, we have 28 speakers. I'm learning just a ton from each one of them.
Where do you find these network of speakers? I mean, is that part of the practice, is going out and socializing to find them, or do they just appear in your doorstep? Where do they come from?
They, I think you would agree with me that the data science slash software development community is very giving of their time. So, and it's not that large, right? So you learn about data scientists and from lots of other people out there. I've followed people on LinkedIn and their blogs and the research. And
do you
so I
credentialize? I
guess
mean, do you credentialize them? And do you say, okay, this person has a PhD, therefore, they know what they're talking about? Because it's a little tricky with you, where you're pitching sometimes folks to get into the field who aren't taking the traditional ivory tower path, right?
yeah. So the short answer is no. I definitely do not credentialize. Um, if we're talking about our instructors, that whether they do our corporate training or boot camp, I would say we have an immensely rigorous process for screening them and interviewing and selecting them. But it never starts with the academic degree. I've been a firm believer that is not while that is important and meaningful. It is not sort of a filter that I want to use. It's the same reason why for our boot camp we've never said, oh, a student needs to have a master's or a PhD or even a bachelor's. For the speakers, my general feeling is if somebody is out there doing really interesting work, and it's work that I can see, I can go to their blog, or I can follow something that they've written, or I've seen them speak somewhere else. If they are passionate about something, and I think that would be meaningful to our audience, whether that audience is aspiring data scientists or that audience is sort of tech savvy business leaders that are looking to be more data centric, then I'm gonna invite them to come in and talk.
Well, we definitely have some real academics on this podcast occasionally. And then we also have people who, on their own time and in their own, have learned or taught us something or built something that's quite amazing as well. So we have both sides of the perspective. So I think there'll be a strong reaction to what you're suggesting here, which, if I'm reading it correctly, is that merit to you sometimes has to do with the character of the person and the passion of what they study and what they bring to the table. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. And their accomplishments, but their accomplishments is not. I'm not defining accomplishments as their academic pedigree. So, again, if somebody has invested, three months poring over data and doing some kind of data visualization, and the process has taught them X, Y, and Z skills on how to analyze it and extract value from it. I think that's really exciting. I think our potential students, our larger audience, will find that really exciting.
What are your?
I'm a firm.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm a firm believer in how do we make data science, data analytics as accessible to people as possible. And I don't want to get caught up in what degree is required to do that.
What impact is the technology's change? I mean, there's obvious. I work for one of the service partners of the world in Google world, and what is the impact that the cloud and other technologies and Python hasn't made to making data science accessible?
In general, I think Python is has been great for the data science community. It's it's a relatively easy language to learn. It's got a very robust community. The stack is extremely well developed, and so it makes sort of it is forward looking in terms of the types of analysis and thinking that one would want to do with it. So I think that has really helped to advance the type of learning and value finding that people want to do, and again, sort of creating this sort of this community. With that said, I don't think there is anything about data science, analytics that is tool specific. What I mean by that is, I certainly hope Python does not go away. But if Python were to go away to be replaced by another language that, for whatever reason, was a better fit, then I think the community will adapt. And we know that. We know languages come and go. We certainly know tools and platforms come and go. I don't think there is any single tool or technology that is, while there are prerequisites today for doing some of this work, I don't think any of them are, if they were disrupted, would pose a long-term problem for the field and for the work that has to be done.
Speaking of disruption, what about the capabilities that are coming up in the consumer space and business space that includes AI and self-driving cars, or whatever you speech to text, or whatever it is? There's obviously some disruptors going on here. What are your personal thoughts on those, and is it exciting to be a part of that evolution?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the our imagination for what can be done. I mean, this is an incredible time. Every industry is being disrupted. There are so many changes that are immediately visible to us, and I think from somebody who runs a business in this space, I think it's a tremendous boon because people want to be a part of doing that. We've had students who have come to us saying, I'm so excited about the notion of self-driving cars, and now they're working at companies, that are making that. We've all interacted with recommendation systems, and students will do final projects where they create their own recommendations. So, and certainly advances in natural language processing and speech to text. I mean, again, students come in with these ideas of what they can do, and they leave with some of the ability to do this stuff. So I think it all. There are a host of with all these advances, there's a host of issues that we all as citizens need to be sensitive to.
Okay.
There's tremendous issues around bias.
Yeah, well, you hit on my favorite topic. If you listen to my podcast, I'm going to ask the question is, what is the precautionary tale? What could go wrong here with this stuff?
I think what could go wrong at sort of the highest level is we're not always sure what's underneath the hood of what we're building, or how what we're building is being used, or how to interpret the results of what has been built. It's not any way to suggest this is sort of magic. It's not. But there's a lot of different things that go together. Underneath the hood, there is that is as a result of sort of the data and the people who built the technology, ill-intentioned or often not. So what can go wrong is when you sort of put these things together, it's not 100% certain what the outcome will be, or how and how that data and how those algorithms and analyses will be used in the future. And that's something, and we see that all the time. We see, there's hiring bias. There's, it's affecting, it's affecting every industry. That in of itself is not a reason to put on the brakes, but it is a reason that we've got to be much more thoughtful about the data we're using, about the underlying algorithms, and how we're interpreting the results of that data.
Absolutely, and I love that keeping that in mind of how to keep it real. So I think we're coming close to our 21.6 minutes. We try to keep it down to that because the average commute time, as I told you earlier. Um, any kind of sentiment you want to leave behind, or how to find you, or how to contribute, or anything you want to leave behind for the audience?
Don't be afraid of taking that first step. I think sometimes data science can be quite intimidating, and it, like anything, it's you can eat an elephant if you do it one bite at a time. There's baby steps to be taken. So I would encourage everybody to just kind of dip their toes in the water. And if you are well versed in this and you're an expert at it, then I encourage you to think about giving back, to think about teaching others, whether it's teaching as a profession or being a mentor, or simply just sort of sharing your craft and skill through meetups and talks and everything like that. This is a great opportunity to share with a much larger audience. So Metis, Metis, my organization, has a lot of different ways to do that. People can get involved with our Slack community. They can get involved in meetups in our various cities. We do lots of free online events, and certainly would welcome people reaching out to me personally at jason@thisismetis.com.